All right, hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the Team Next Level Quad Pod. We have a special episode for you tonight. I am Coach Greg, joined by Rich, Marilyn, and James.
Rain
Wilson.
Welcome, guys. And we are also joined by a special guest tonight. We've got Matt Schuster of Agegrouper with us. Matt, welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
Welcome, Matt.
Welcome. Where's a
Did we
little
take rain?
applause? Can we get applause button?
There we go.
Oh,
A
nice.
little bit of applause.
Better than the crickets.
Hopefully we won't use that one. Matt, welcome for joining us. Maybe we'll do a little bit of an intro. Matt, you want to tell us a little bit about just you, like in a minute or two, and then we're going to start with rapid fire.
Like an elevator pitch?
Yeah.
Like you have to prepare?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
All right.
Well, I'm Matt, and I started a company called Agegrouper, and this was a bit of a passion project that launched out of my discovery of triathlon. So I spent, prior to even coming into the sport, about 15 years in digital advertising, so working the ad exec role. And had a bit of a life change, came into the sport, found it, loved it, and then had a couple of, falls that I'm sure we'll talk about at some point that then inspired this project I call Agegrouper. And it's kind of developed into this hobby / passion / door opener, and ultimately new career path that I've taken on. So now I just do triathlon, participate in the endurance sports world as much as I can, and try to fit in being a dad and a husband in between.
That's
Awesome.
That's really cool.
Sounds
great.
amazing. I think
I think that's what we all want to do.
that's the dream. That's the dream.
I took
right?
notes just so we're clear.
Yeah, the blueprint.
Yeah.
Let's figure it out.
Yeah, great, man. So again, thanks for coming on, and we're going to start with rapid fire. So the rules for rapid fire are there are no rules. We want you to give quick answers, but if you need to explain them, that's perfectly fine. They don't need to be one word or one sentence answer. All right. So here we go. First one: would you rather race an entire triathlon in a wetsuit or a Speedo?
Ooh, Speedo.
Yeah.
Easy.
Temperature out of
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't
not play
matter.
any kind of game.
Doesn't matter.
No.
Okay.
He might have been
It could
that
be a
guy we saw at
sleeveless.
the race last weekend.
It could be a sleeveless wetsuit too, if that changes your
already.
mind.
Stop leading the way.
Okay.
Definitely not.
All right, Team Speedo.
Mhm.
Would you rather do an Ironman swim filled with jellyfish or run a marathon followed by hornets?
Ooh. I've already done the swim with jellyfish, so I'll do that one again.
Oh,
Oh.
I've got a
Uh-oh.
deep fear of bees. So.
okay.
Yeah.
Some people call jellyfish bees of the ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Who
could-
does that?
I just
can
did.
see that.
Elaborate, please.
I just did.
Go ahead. He skipped you.
All right. What's the most exotic dish you've ever eaten?
Most exotic dish. I don't know what it is, but I was brought to this underground sushi restaurant in New York City at one point where there's no name. You cannot find it anywhere. You have to know someone who knows someone. And it's the type of where they just hand you piece by piece.
Oh.
And they
Oh.
put something on my plate, and I have no idea what it was, but I swear it was still moving.
Oh.
And they said, just eat it.
Just
It's
eat
a
it.
jellyfish.
I was like, all right, it's a delicacy. By the
Sure.
way, this meal is $1,000 a plate. I
Oh,
was like,
wow.
Oh.
okay, I'm going to eat it.
Was
Yeah.
it the blowfish maybe?
I don't know what it was, but
You might die.
Yes.
That sounds so cool.
That doesn't sound good.
No, that doesn't sound good at all. That
Oh,
sounds
No.
maybe it was like
scary.
the
I don't
uni,
that.
like the
hmm
sea cucumber.
All right. If you could have any superpower during a race, what would it be?
I don't want to overthink it. Probably just super speed, I guess, right? Is that what
Yeah.
everyone else will say?
Mhm.
Flash.
Sure.
Flash.
I think the run is the hardest
Yeah.
part.
All right. If you had to create a new triathlon event, what would it involve besides swimming, biking, and running?
Rowing.
Oh,
Oh.
okay.
Row.
It's kind of,
So
we,
It's a
quick.
popular
yeah,
one.
Quick on
it's a
that one.
popular
It's like
one.
he thought of it.
It came out of we were doing an event down in Princeton for Power Bar, and I don't know if you've ever been there, but it is a massive running and rowing culture, the whole
Mhm.
city.
Yep.
And we went on this group run, and all of them are talking about how there's this regatta, and even people aren't affiliated with the university, they all row. And I was like, oh, has anyone done like a multi-sport run row event? And everyone said, no, that's a really good idea. You guys have been here for like decades. Like, how is this the first that you're hearing of it?
Yeah.
Did they start it
We Next Level did that.
once
Once.
in our
We did.
non-event
Okay.
event?
Yeah, we did row run,
We did a row bike
ride
row
run.
bike run.
Run.
That was
Yeah.
it. Yeah, that was
at
fun.
Harriman. It was not a race,
But we bought the rowers. To the
Yeah. You
parking
brought
lot.
rowers
to Harriman. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we got busted by the park ranger because it's like, you need a permit for if you're holding a race. It's like, it's not a race. And they're like, well, you have a finish line
Oh man,
right there and like a table. Like, oh, okay, well, next time maybe we'll.
Yeah, it was fun.
That was the
Good.
last one, but
Yeah.
first and last.
All right. Next.
So, would you rather race against a team of squirrels or a herd of turtles?
Comes up with this shit.
actually, I just saw a video online. Turtles aren't as slow as you think.
Oh, did you see the one
So-
going down the ramp?
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Snapping turtles are fast, aren't they?
I don't
I
know.
don't know.
But yeah, I guess the biting is more intimidating than scratching. So I'll race the squirrels.
The squirrels.
Mhm.
Oh, they're
This
erratic.
one's a good one.
All right. If your bike could talk, what would it say
Mm.
about your riding style?
Sit still.
Sit
You move
still.
around.
I squiggle on
You
the
move
seat
around a
way
lot.
too much.
What kind of bike do you have?
Canyon Speedmax.
Mm.
Oh,
Mm.
That was-
Jumping
Like-
the gun.
I mean, I just gotta
I
know.
mean, that's what I want.
Yeah, we all do.
What's next? If you were a professional triathlete, what would your victory celebration look like at the finish line?
Is this a video or an audio?
I don't even know if that
I
means
mean, it
you
could
have to
be
be
anything.
professional.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the Flying Eagle.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
like the Wout Van
Nice.
Aert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite post race meal?
Oh, burger.
Yeah.
Burger and a
Mhm.
margarita.
Yeah,
Nice.
Oh
Fresh.
yeah.
that's a good answer.
Good answer.
What about a celebrity that you would choose for a triathlon coach?
Celebrity for a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Probably David Goggins, because that would just
Oh.
be
Yes.
the most
Yes.
ridiculous situation ever.
James is- That's his idol.
You don't know me, son.
me.
Does he count as a celebrity?
I think so.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
100%.
James does.
Yeah,
Yeah, James
100%.
idolizes him.
Yeah, yeah. If you had to sing one karaoke song before every race, what would it be?
Why does it need to be before a race? Why not just?
Yeah,
It's like your
His
walkout,
favorite
kind of
karaoke.
like
Oh yeah.
But you're gonna sing your
Yeah,
own
you gotta
walkout
sing it,
music,
basically
Oh.
pump yourself up.
It's just like you hum it in your head, or is it like your
No, you got to
Oh,
sing
no.
it.
Microphone.
Sing.
Full.
Karaoke.
Everyone's
Karaoke
hearing it.
style.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man,
The announcers.
Probably "Kickstart My Heart" by Motley Crue.
That'll get you going.
That's a good one. It's my turn. What's your secret snack during a race that nobody knows about?
Now they will. Because we have so many followers.
During the race.
Yeah.
I don't really have any secret snacks.
Maybe not something
Or-
nobody knows about, but do you have like
What's your favorite go-to?
what's your go-to race food?
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually, my go-to race food is like no food. I had struggles with tummy problems from the beginning of my racing career, so I've actually pared everything back to very basic stuff leading into, during, and then if it's all well, then I'll go back for the burger after.
So during the race,
So
you don't.
it's just race nutrition. So just
Mhm.
I use Power Bar for everything.
Mhm.
Power Bar
Cool.
products. I would love to sneak an Uncrustable
Yes,
in
I've
the
done that.
bento box, but I have tried peanut butter before a race, and it does not sit well. So
Really?
Ah.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Hmm.
This is a good one.
Mm-hmm.
This is a ridiculous one. If you could race a triathlon with any fictional in any fictional world,
Mhm.
where would you choose?
any fictional
like
world?
Middle Earth or the Star Wars universe?
Not Watopia.
Not Watopia.
Not Watopia.
Oh, we've all spent
No.
too much time there.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a good one. Probably do. Oh, I know. Rainbow World at a Mario Kart. No question.
That would be fun.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
All right. If you could have any animal as your mascot, as your race mascot, why and what would it be?
Animal as my race mascot.
We've talked about
This one's controversial.
This one's controversial here. Yeah.
We've skipped 13 for you, James.
Well, I noticed that.
No, I didn't realize it until just now.
Uh-huh.
We're gonna have to cut these.
Yeah,
short.
we have too
I
many.
guess probably. I want to go sloth. Just
Sloth.
because if you're in that mode, you're feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
We'll
not
get
that
there
quick.
when we get there.
Yeah.
The sloth.
As slow as
All right.
possible.
Okay.
All right, this is one of my favorite questions. Would you rather bike 56 miles with flat tires or no bike seat?
Oh, man. Well, flat tires.
Flat tires.
Yeah.
Nice.
Long 56 miles.
I don't know anybody
Either
who
way,
would
it's
say
long.
the seat thing.
I know.
I've done an 80-mile ride where my seat post slipped down and I was just like way too low and I had to like stand up a bit and
Yeah.
that was miserable.
Oh,
And my knees were just killing me by the end of that ride. So yeah, I'll take flat tires.
okay. All
That
right.
sounds terrible. I'm going to skip ahead. What's your favorite ice cream flavor? Also controversial here.
Very controversial. There's a right and a wrong answer here, man.
Yeah.
I'm partial to cinnamon roll and Van Dyke's in Ridgewood, actually, not Glen Rock. Has a cinnamon roll swirl ice cream, and it is pretty amazing.
Mm.
Okay. That's a different answer.
Good answer.
Yeah.
What's the wrong answer?
Vanilla.
No,
Oh.
that is the right answer. The only answer.
It's the
Because
base of everything.
versatile. Exactly. Go ahead.
I've lost my mojo. I can't even after that. Sorry.
Well, now we're really jumping. You gotta just
Yeah.
choose whatever inspires you
I
now.
don't have
Right.
the list.
No,
You guys
no,
have
no,
it.
that was
Yeah.
Secret.
That would be fair.
Simple coffee or tea?
Coffee.
What's the last book you read?
I just finished Elite Minds, which is I try to read it at least once a year.
Okay.
I've done it. This is the third year.
Oh, wow. So you recommend it?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, last two questions. James and Marilyn.
Would you rather do your entire race in slow motion or fast forward?
Fast forward.
Yeah, I guess that's not even.
I know,
right
that's not
answer.
even a question.
I wasted my
I want
question.
to prolong the suffering. I just want it to hurt for longer.
Like Goggins, just enjoy the suffering.
Just
Last
spend so much time in the water.
Question. Name one thing on your bucket list.
Good one. Good choice, Marilyn.
Thank you.
Like life bucket list or
Yes.
triathlon?
Life
Just
bucket
go
list.
with both. You could answer one from each.
I'll go with triathlon bucket list. I want to do the what is it? The Sea to Summit race. That's from I think it starts in Maine and it goes up to the top of Mount Washington.
Oh, yeah.
And
I've seen that.
It's a mile swim, ocean swim from Maine, New Hampshire, and then a 90-mile bike where part of it is extremely hilly and part of it is very flat. And you can have two bikes. So you can swap them out. And then it's I don't know the exact distance, but basically you do the climb from the base of Mount Washington through Tuckerman's Ravine, and it's some ridiculous amount of elevation. And you have to have a porter with you. You have to have all of your own supplies, and they have all of these. It's almost like ultra running, like these regulations of what gear you have to have with you because it could change in a moment's time. And it just seems super gnarly.
Cool.
So it is a swim bike run.
Swim bike run.
Oh,
Yeah.
You know James is going to be signing up for it tomorrow.
It's like, let's make it
when
happen.
we leave, he's going to be like, "You guys want to do this race?"
Yeah. It's there's a few people from Jersey that have done it and they all swear by it. Say it's
Yeah?
amazing. Yeah.
Awesome.
cool.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
And then how about regular life bucket list?
I'm kind of in the limbo of living some of that right now because one of the things that was on my bucket list was to do a career change, and I haven't actually completed it yet. So I guess following that all the way through would be my number one. But it all has to wrapped into everything that I've been doing with, life and endurance sport. So I guess that's my cop-out answer.
No, that's
No,
okay.
that's
I
a good
think
answer.
that's the
That's a
perfect
good
Bring
answer.
you back
segue.
for another episode.
That's also
When
the-
that transition finally
Yeah, when it lands.
That's the perfect segue into the actual meat
Yeah.
of the episode
So
now.
there
good
you
job.
go.
Good job with rapid fire. You got
You
Did I
passed.
pass? I survived?
47 points.
Oh,
Good job.
The
Out of
vanilla one
out
really
of a
hurt.
possible
Yeah.
500.
We don't
We're
reveal
not
that.
really sure.
Mm.
All All right, so James, why don't you put a lot of this together? You did a lot of the digging, so go ahead and start us off.
All right, so again, we're talking to Matt Schuster from Agegrouper, and I saw this quote on your bio, and I think it really resonates with a lot of people. So it says, "Real athletes are those getting up at 4 a.m. to fit in a workout before responsibility takes over. There are no screaming fans, no endorsement deals or paychecks. They do it for the love of the sport and to challenge the only competitor that matters, themselves." So I was gonna say, like I said, this describes so many of us in the sport. Tell us how this relates to you and how this defines being an age grouper.
Yeah. It's funny, as I've dug into the sport, I'm learning more and more that there are so many non-professional athletes that have tons of endorsement deals just because they're following on social media. So, so that there's, a bit of an asterisk next to that. But this came when I had stumbled onto triathlon. It was probably just coming out of the pandemic, and kind of your typical story of, went out and started running again, got hurt. They said, ride a bike, started riding a bike, and said, hey, you should do a triathlon. And then,
that sounds how I got here.
The age-old story.
So who was they? Like,
it was a combination. So I have a bit of a extreme personality. I kind of tend to dive into things pretty deeply right out of the gate. So when I said started running, I went from like 0 to 50, 60 mile weeks.
Oh wow.
And I was like, I'm gonna do another marathon. I did one before, like 10 years prior. And then when I got hurt, they said, I pulled out the mountain bike and then just started riding, and all of a sudden I was doing 2-hour rides, 3-hour rides, 4-hour rides. And then we were on vacation down in the Outer Banks, and my sister was just like, why don't you just go do an Ironman?
Oh.
And
did your sister have any experience in triathlon at all?
Zero.
Or it's just like,
Go do it.
Ironman
she's just
is what it is.
she's just watching me like do all this ridiculous nonsense, and she's like, yeah, why don't you just go do it? And naive me is like, yeah, I'll do that. It's like doing a marathon. Sure, why not? And then I started, really diving deep, doing tons of research. I actually ended up joining with a local club, RTA, out of Ridgewood. And, the first few conversations I had, it was, you probably don't want to just dive right into doing an Ironman. maybe work your way up. So I did. So I started focusing on Eagleman 70.3, which was the first triathlon, let alone first, 70.3 distance race I'd ever do. And just fell in love with training, fell in love with it hit every note that interests me. So there was the training, the progression, the gear, the data, the level of passion that anyone that touches the sport has. And I immediately was like, this is for me. Like, I don't know where this has been my whole life, but I want everything to do with this, and just fell in love. And at the time I was still working, so trying to fit in everything. The more people I met through this, and the more I got exposed to it, the one thing that kind of stayed true across everyone I met was anyone that does this sport has that same like deep passion, and you can't really explain why to anyone that doesn't do it, because they're like, wait, you get paid for this? It's like, no. Right? It's like, do you win anything? It's like, you get a medal.
Yeah.
So why? And that's where a lot of that first line came from, which was like, you're doing it just to prove who you are through sport, and then that translates into the rest of your life, because you've got to progress forward in some way. So that kind of tone was, stuck in my head, and I was thinking through. And at the time, I was literally just training, winding down my old job, because I was still technically working at my old company.
Did you? I don't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, go ahead.
But did you see that those two paths couldn't happen at the same time, or was it like you you were already on your way out of the old career path, and then this came into your life and was you're like, oh, this can be the thing? Or was it, I need to get out of, you said it was marketing and stuff, right?
Yeah, it was a bit more bookended than that. So, not going too deep, but I had hit a pretty severe point of burnout from a career perspective, and it was actually pre-COVID. So it was leading into the end of 2019, and for a whole host of reasons, the level of stress from work had hit such a breaking point that I was complete insomnia episodes, panic attacks, health was just down the drain. I was working ridiculous hours, physically, mentally, and emotionally was like the unhealthiest I've ever been in my life. So I remember I woke up I think it was like a Wednesday, and I went to get out of bed to go catch the train, and I just couldn't get up. And I looked at my wife, Rachel, and I was just like, I don't know. And she just looked at me and she goes, "You're going into work and you're quitting today." And I was like, "Yeah, no." She goes, "No. You are not going to be a part of that company."
Way to go, Rachel.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And went, had the conversation, and started the process of stepping away. And as an executive, you can't just walk out and give 2 weeks. So this was in November, I think, of 19. And we all know what happened 2.5 months later. The company I worked for was an outdoor advertising company, or out of home. So when people are no longer allowed out of your home, not very good for the company. So there was a lot of work that needed to be done. So I ended up staying on till I think around May of 2020. But the athletics part of things didn't actually pick up until January. So at that point, it was, you have to do something. You can't just wallow in the basement. So I started running, got a spin bike, the Peloton app, and just started doing like Peloton workouts. I call it faux Peloton because it wasn't Peloton. And things just kind of progressed from there.
Cool.
What's the athletic background? Are you coming from any kind as a kid growing up, like anything like that?
I played team sports my whole life. I played lacrosse through high school and college. And then started a bit of running like right after college. So did a few half marathons, a marathon. And at one point I bought a bike and thought I was going to become a cyclist. And I desperately want a time machine to go back, but like, keep going.
Right.
But just kind of fell out of favor with it, and then did, mixed going to the gym for a little over a decade, and then came back into more structured training, 2020 and going forward.
So you were kind of getting into triathlon, right? And then so getting out of whatever you were doing in terms of your responsibilities and career-wise and things like that. And then you had tell us about the auspices and the like switch for Agegrouper. When did that start to happen? What was that? Take us to the beginnings. Take us through the thought process.
That was a fun one. So I did Eagleman 70.3 and
that was in 21 or 20?
In 21.
What was your time? What was your time?
Oh, no,
James.
Wait,
He knows it.
He's obsessed
Yeah,
with
of course he knows it. But like,
everyone knows their times.
Yeah.
so Eagleman 2021, is that one of the first Ironman events to happen post COVID? Like Texas 70.3 in April, but then it's got to be one of the first ones, right?
It was still like, it was at the time where it was still like, is this going to get canceled?
Is this going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
you had to wear masks and lead up to the swim. And
yeah, nobody did, but you were supposed to.
How long were you registered for that? Like when did you sign up for it? And like, how long were you getting ready for it and stuff like that?
I started training with RTA in September of 20.
Okay.
So then I registered for the race, I think in November.
So let's call it 9 months or so.
Yeah.
Getting ready. Okay,
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a good amount of time.
Yeah.
I think that's
So-
exactly what we
It's
recommended.
what we did. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. Like I was kid in a candy store going from like nothing to
Mm-hmm.
somebody fills my training peaks every week
Yeah.
with new stuff. So I did that race. I ended up qualifying for St. George and then was training for St. George, which was early September that year. On September 8th, I was doing my last long ride, was riding up to Bear Mountain, crashed, and went over the handlebars, broken collarbone, broken shoulder blade, broken ribs,
Wow.
emergency surgery, and was just out. And it was a very weird, like, outer body experience almost, because you went from this peak of your current fitness to completely incapable of moving. I remember being on the bed and just sitting up was like the most excruciating pain ever. I was like, this sucks a lot.
Yeah.
So went through, started healing up, started going to physical therapy. And at that time, the job stuff was already completely off the table. So I had nothing going on. I was doing a little bit of consulting here and there, but even that had dried up at that point. So I just sat down, and out of this weird moment of clarity, I just opened a computer, opened a Google Doc, and just started writing. And I was just like, whatever comes to mind, I'm gonna start writing. And within a week, there was 90 pages of just, here's everything I learned in my first year of triathlon. And it was one of those moments where like you're just channeling something else and it's just all coming out. And I'm like, there's a lot here. And it was almost an encapsulation of the sort of newbie's perspective of the sport, because anyone that's been in it for a while, like you can't put yourself back into that position and look at it through those eyes. So I felt like I've got something here. And I was talking with Rach, and I was like, what do I do with this? And she goes, maybe it's a book. So I had some friends that work at Penguin, and they connect me to somebody. And I said, hey, I think this could be a book. And they're like, it's not a book. Like, glad you had a very cathartic experience, but this is not a book. They go, maybe it's a blog. I was like, all right. So I'll
just
make a blog.
shorten this down in a couple paragraphs. You got a blog.
So then I was thinking, I was like, all right, well, I've got plenty of blog posts now. So maybe I can make some money and put some ads on it. And I started to think of a name, like, what do I call it? And I was like, Agegrouper. That sounds pretty cool. That's what we all are. It's how we refer to ourselves. It's, a bit of a mantra or a battle cry. And I went to go look, and like there was no site called Agegrouper. I'm like, I'll take it. Then I go buy the domain. Like, oh no, somebody has that, $7,000. So they're not doing anything with it, but they own it.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, Agegrouper in the United States .us, and then we just started putting posts together and editing them, and as we started doing it more and more, I'm like, this name it's way too cool to just be a blog. I was like, what if we went a bit deeper, and instead of it just being my perspective, what if we started interviewing other athletes and getting their perspective? And then so we did. We interviewed, I think in total, I think we're up to like 150 athletes.
Oh, wow.
And then the one thread that came through was that there's always this bit of advice or guidance or something to learn just from somebody that's been doing it for a while that you're not going to read in a book. It's not something that's just straight up top of mind that a coach is going to tell you. And I said, that's the magic that we have to figure out how to capture. Like, how do we get those nuggets and just make them more accessible, discoverable, and available? So that became the two-pronged approach of Agegrouper was, how do we educate and inspire through, stories from experienced athletes, and, not from the coaches of, massive professionals where they do this for a living, but for the people that are really having to balance work, life, family, and then sport.
Okay, so you double clicked on who it's for, but like, what about what's your mission for this project? What do you envision?
That is the $1 million question, because it was built on follow the passion and the mission will come.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, built it and they will come.
It hasn't
yet.
Well, let me rephrase. It has. What it has done is it's opened doors to a completely different path that I didn't realize would come out of it. Because what we learned from doing this is we learned how to engage a community. We learned how to create really good content, editorial content, social media content, and we learned how to do it at scale. Which in the beginning, that was the hardest thing. Like, great, we've got an Instagram account. How do we fill it? What do we post? How do we create it? There's a reason there's entire agencies and teams that do this for a living, because it's not easy. What came out of it was Agegrouper as a website, as a social media account. It remains, a core passion project of mine, but it's not a business. And what did come out of it, though, is a consultancy. So what we learned is that the skills that we've developed are completely transferable and very valuable for a lot of other companies in the endurance sports space. So we started actually working with other companies. We worked with an apparel company. We were working with an eyewear company, and my current contract, the one I'm focusing most of my time on right now, is Power Bar.
Mm-hmm.
So we were doing all the social media content, optimizing a lot of their e-commerce, getting into their sales strategy. And that's a whole nother podcast. There's a whole story behind that company. But that hit on, for me, a lot of the things of it surrounds the passion that I have for this sport. It hits on a lot of the skills that I had prior and developed through Agegrouper, and it's got legs. Like, it can keep going. So that is that's the mission now, which is continue to, use our powers for good for other companies.
I like it.
So I don't want you to give up your secret sauce, but hypothetically speaking, if there was, like, let's just say a small like social media account, like for a triathlon podcast, let's just say, and they're trying to grow their presence, what's one tip you would give them hypothetically?
Yeah, asking for a friend.
Just asking for a friend, like how to start growing.
The biggest one is consistent value. So it's not just about consistency. Like, yes, you need to post regularly. You need to be a constant in their feed and always be there, but it's got to be posts that provide some sort of value beyond just the visual engagement itself. So whether it's coaching tips or some sort of moment captured that's unique from a race or something like that, but consistently providing that value on a regular cadence. And you don't have to post every day. I think everyone has that misconception, is you've got to have something on the feed every day to grow. We hit our peak. We were growing, and Agegrouper's not huge. Like, I think we peaked out at like 12,000 followers on Instagram, so it's nothing. But
it's a little more than us.
When you look at like some of the other ones,
it's like a rounding error.
Depends on what statistic you look at.
The Triathlon Hour, you should just carbon copy their playbook. They're
Let's take notes.
But yeah, when we hit our peak, we were doing, I think it was 2 or 3 pieces of content a week, and it would be social posts that connected back to an editorial article, and it would be a visually engaging video first post that would then inspire whoever is looking at it to go down and read the description with some sort of coaching comments or athlete guidance.
Yeah, that's the thing I noticed about your Instagram posts, were that it wasn't just, a good picture and like a 2-word blurb. Like there was content to it. There was thought put into the post, and it forced you to click and see what else was written there. And there was always something valuable in there. One of the things you keep saying, we, us, and stuff like that. How many people are behind Agegrouper?
It changed throughout the last 2 years. It's right now it's myself and Rachel, my wife.
Okay.
So she has a background in public relations, and had some, I guess, called journalism classes in college. So she takes over and leads a lot of the editing, which has been, just game changing because most people can't write.
That's not easy.
So we can actually get someone to just bullet point your stream of consciousness, give us everything, and then we will reorganize everything and write an article that's SEO optimized and sounds good. So myself, her, we had a number of freelancers that we worked with from editorial perspective, from a graphic design perspective, but it's really the two of us kind of leading the charge.
Awesome.
Cool. Should we maybe change gears a little bit?
Yeah.
Make it more of what James wants to.
The meat and the potatoes.
Wants the next question. Yeah.
What was your time at Eagle, man?
4:53.
Flying, and that was your first triathlon.
Yeah.
Do you have any races that you have a score to settle with? James wants to settle scores with every race.
That's my famous line.
No, it's more of I've not yet done the same race twice. Not true. I did Harryman twice, but it's hard to gauge success course to course,
right? Because it's so different.
So this year I'm going back to Arizona. I did Arizona last year, so I'm going back again, with a lot more learnings and a lot of things I know to look out for.
When's the last time you did Arizona?
I did last year.
Oh, last year.
The full Ironman?
Full Ironman.
So you're doing another
That's
one.
Exciting.
When is that race?
November 19th.
Oh, it's coming up.
That was on our list.
It's right around the corner. So what's your next race coming up?
Long Island.
So
Jones Beach on Saturday.
All right. And we'll have a relay team for kind of fun. Came to last minute, but we'll be on looking out for you there. Hopefully not getting your way. So how you feel?
James wants to draft off you.
I'm way too slow, and I think they send relays at the end. I forget how it goes. Do you corral with the same?
No, you just corral.
Yeah,
you just corral
with your age group.
Okay, for some reason I thought it was at the end.
Well, I think it's self-seating. So you go in, and they have like the
times
grouping based on your expected time. So
James, like the
23-minute
timer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If you're going 23, I'm on your toes.
No, take that number, reverse it, then add another 10 minutes, 10, 15, 20, depending on the conditions. So how you feeling for this race? This is Jones Beach. This is their first ever, right?
Yeah. I'm excited for it. It is going to be interesting. They have the largest field of athletes I have ever seen.
It's like 3,800 people, right?
4,800.
4,800 now.
Yeah.
Wow.
On the Wantaw Parkway doing 2 loops.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
They closed the highway for the course.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
So how many lanes do you have?
I don't know.
I guess the whole
2?
thing.
Well, yeah, that's what you said, but that's going to be crowded.
I don't know if they closed the entire both ways. I know that. So in Arizona, they closed down the highway of the B line, and they just close one side and then make the other side 2-way traffic. So it's one lane going either direction for the bikes as well, which is super sketchy.
Yeah.
I thought I read they closed both sides because of the way the U-turn works. There was no way to do it on just
Perfect.
one way.
So that's great.
And plus they're closing it on race morning at 3 a.m. So you have to take Meadowbrook or something.
Okay.
Because the Wantaw will be closed off. So if anyone's listening, this will be come out after the race.
Yeah, this will be come out a couple weeks after.
I know the race director has said multiple times, you have to watch or attend or watch one of the webinars. You have to.
Oh, okay.
I still have not done it yet.
James hasn't either, obviously.
I haven't either. I was going to try to make sure I went to the briefings because I think it's the first one's at 1:00. So hopefully I'm gonna try to get a practice swim in and then
Oh, you're going Friday.
I'm gonna go Friday.
Okay.
So I didn't realize, I was trying to rope all these people in to the relay. No one wanted to do it, and then I finally got some people in, and then I was like, yeah, don't worry, I'll pick up the packets. I'll check in your bike for you. We won't have to get a hotel and all that. And then I read the packet, and it's like, oh, the whole relay team has to be there.
Oh, really?
So like,
man.
sorry guys, road trip, like we gotta go. But then it turns out there's a practice swim on Friday on the course.
That.
So
yeah,
I'll check it out.
We're going Thursday because I think Friday is going to be just mayhem getting down to Jones
So many
Beach.
people. Yeah, you
Yeah.
guys better leave.
It's gonna be a lot
early.
of
I'm gonna
traffic.
leave probably like 8 before, right as soon as I drop my daughter off
spray,
school.
right?
Yeah,
I've
bug spray.
heard.
Did you see that?
Yeah. Just run as fast as I can. Hopefully the bugs can't get me.
Right.
All
Run
right, so
away from those bees.
any goals for this race?
Yeah, I've been kind of building and progressing. This is the third 70.3 this year. And it's been a good season so far. Every single one's, there's always something you want to improve. My goal is just have a complete race start to finish.
What does that mean?
So like when I did Western Mass start of the year, it was downriver swim, which was amazing. So it was a nice swim. Was the first race where I was actually able to hang with the fast chase groups and towards the front of the bike. And normally like I get on it, it's like I can hang with them for a quarter of the bike, and then eventually I fall off. But we were with them all the way through. Came off the bike, and then just slowly started to slow down on the run. And mile 9 is always my nemesis, and you can see it in every file. It's just like this. And then at mile 9 something happens and it picks back up. Adrenaline, because you see the finish line. And so I left some time on the table on the run. I did Muscle Man after that, and good swim, and just had a really rough bike.
That's a nice bike out there.
It is. It was supposed to be. It ended up not being for me. That was, I know one of your questions about dark moments. That was, whew.
What happened?
My legs just did not show up. And I don't know if it was that we drove up the day before and it was a longer car ride than we planned, or that I didn't do a shakeout workout when we got there. I did the workout in the morning, got in the car, drove up. Didn't really get much of a warm up pre-race, but yeah, I got onto the bike and went to go start pushing, and you can just feel the legs just don't want to push, and you get into that point where just people are coming up and then they go past, and then people come up behind you and they go past, and you try to get on a wheel and you just can't hang on to it, and you're like, oh, they must be pushing like crazy watts. And then I look down, I'm like, nope, I'm just not pushing any watts.
There's actually more elevation in that than you realize on that course, wasn't it?
There's a lot of little.
It's a lot of
but
false
nothing.
flats.
Yeah.
I think the total elevation was like 1,500 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't much,
it
but
wasn't a lot, but
it was like you said, like if you don't have it on those 1-2% false flats,
Yep.
like you feel you're just not going anywhere. And
Yeah.
people who are able to get on top of it
Oh yeah,
are flying.
absolutely. And then, but that was an interesting race because I mean, halfway through the bike, I'm contemplating like I'm just gonna get off. Like, I'm not gonna do it.
Wow.
That bad.
And I was
Sounds
like, you
like
know
my
what?
bike ride.
I'm gonna go. And I have a bone to pick with every. Actually, I've met a lot of them. They're fantastic people, but there's something about Everyman Jack athletes, EMJ. They're are you guys familiar?
No.
It's kind of like
So-
a
It's like elite.
top elite age group team.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for a
I've
bone to
never
pick,
heard-
so let's add it. Let's add it to
I've
the
never
list.
heard of 'em.
They kind of recruit the kind of top of the age group ranks to join their team, and it's similar to I imagine similar joining to like a Zoot or a Team Varlo, but they are very specific of who they'll go in and recruit.
So invite
And
only.
It's invite only. Sometimes there's applications, but they're super. It's not like we're like, yeah, everybody's in.
Now, it seems almost like
Um,
they want you right before you go pro. Like they want to
Yes.
hitch their wagon to you and then you go pro kind of thing.
And it's that, or they just want like every podium with people with EMJ polos. So I see them a lot, and I'm always like, I just want to. every time I pass one of them.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
Gotta look out for him.
Yeah,
now.
now.
Right.
I saw, got off the bike right before I got off the bike. One of them just came right by me, like within the last, I don't know, mile. And I'm like, oh, no. So it was my mission to catch him by the end of the run. I was able to do it. And then we finished. And then later I looked him up, and it ended up being Paul Fielder, who's a former UFC MMA fighter.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, oh my God, that's so much cooler now.
That's a great story.
Yeah, that's a good story.
So you were able to salvage the run, like even though your legs weren't there for the bike, or
Yeah. The run came around.
Oh, wow.
And didn't fade at the point I normally do. So, good swim, bad bike, good run. The first race was good swim, good bike, not so great run. So Long Island, I'd love to put all three together, and see if we can have a good race.
I think it's great though that you didn't give up, because you never know. Like if you gave up on the bike, like you would have never known you had a decent run. So you just never quit.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what does your training look like leading up to race?
So this one's interesting. I should point out, like, I made a really good coaching switch for me. This is going on. We're on year 2. So I went with PBM coaching. So Kurt Parham, and he's just fantastic. He's been one of the coaches that has been kind of in the whispers of a handful of athletes within the area. So he doesn't have a huge following. He's not for everybody. It's more, pretty into the weeds of, do you want to dial in, getting all of the maximizing performance, marginal gains, really pushing the limit on a lot of things. And, that's not for everybody. And it's only really for if, you've got the motivation and you don't need somebody to be your point of accountability.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, things won't really work out. But he's been great. And right now we're doing something interesting because we have to build for Arizona and train for Long Island, which is always fun. Because we're not doing it as build for Arizona and just do it 70.3. We're actually trying to race the 70.3. So the last 5 weeks has been big volume, but also with, pretty decent intensity, more so than you would typically see for an Ironman build. I don't know if you want to like go through like day by day, but
yeah,
yes,
what was like a week, like last week?
Do you have kind of a standard week that you guys have fallen into, that Mondays pretty much the specific workout might change, but Monday is going to be a tempo swim day no matter what you're doing, kind of thing, or is it changed?
No, we've got a pretty structured routine. So usually it's Mondays are easier, but like moderate swim days. So we'll do like a 4K swim with a mixed of short, mid distance intervals, get into some threshold, but nothing much higher than that. And then will be like a easy spin afterwards. So go like ride around for 45 minutes. Tuesdays are the aerobic days. So it's just volume. So super chill. When we get into peak build, those are 2 hours on the bike and then like a 30-minute run. And then Wednesdays, I made a switch, and this is just because my work lifestyle allows for it. It's a pretty flexible schedule. I moved my long rides to midweek because I actually found it made it really hard to have the kids on the weekends. So I was like, I don't have to go into the city, so I'll just get it all done, be finished with training by like 11. So I'll do the long ride on Wednesday, and that's usually depending on stage, it would be 3.5 to 4.5 hours. We'll probably get up to like 5 before Arizona. And that'll be mixed. It'll have some, half Ironman efforts, maybe even some threshold efforts, and then a transition runoff.
Trainer or outside?
I'm very much an outdoor cat. So
you're doing those thresholds outside, and you're doing those.
Yeah.
Okay.
And fun training fact: I originally subscribed to the school of thought of the more elevation, the stronger the rider. Intervals on the flat are harder than intervals on the hill.
For sure. The hills kind of force you to stay in that range. Yes. There's no mental, you just can't not push.
Not be there.
And that was that was an eye opener for me when I went to Arizona, because it is just, it's a slight 1% grade, but it's just straight out, straight back, and there's no break. So I actually switched. I used to do all my riding in Harriman. Now I ride to Rockland State Park, and I just do loops.
Go loops there.
And I, hammer down on the flat, spin around, and I just stay on the flat. And it is, substantially more challenging. You can even see it in the heart rate. Like, it's just more challenging to keep power when there's no, to your point, no force on the pedals back to you. So yeah, I try not to. I try to stay off the trainer as much as possible. And then Thursdays are the intensity days. So Thursdays will be track session. Right now we're doing 1K repeats, and then it'll be like the intense swim, so speed swim session. Fridays we go long in the water, and then Saturday is the bike intensity session. So that'll be 105% plus. Oof. For 3, 5. I think we got up to like 8 minutes.
Ooh, fun.
And then
you'll be doing that too.
Yeah. And then the long run on Sunday. So
that's it.
Did you total up those hours, Rich?
So what are we saying?
Hours,
like
no.
15 hours a week or so?
On average, it'll probably top out at like 19.
Yeah.
When we get to Halloween.
Okay.
Like Halloween weekend is going to be the biggest one, because then we'll start to pare it back a bit. But that's going to be probably the second 100 miler on the bike. And Kurt's a big fan of the split run. Mm-hmm. So he'll do, like, instead of just doing the 20 miler, it'll be like 10 in the morning, 10 in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
So you get the miles on the day. Like, we'll do 1 20 miler straight, but instead of doing like 2 or 3 of them, he'll do like 1 of them and then split up the other ones. It's just, you still get the hours in the legs, but you spare the fatigue and potential injury. So
interesting.
I always find it really hard though to if I don't get a workout done in the morning first thing, to come back to something later. It feels at least twice as hard.
I actually like bribe myself, because when we have to do those, when I did it last year leading into Placid, I think, I went and did the first one, and then just went out for like the biggest breakfast ever. Just like, this is, we went to, where'd we go? The Pancake House in Ridgewood, and just got the biggest stack, and I'm like, carb loading for the next run. Let's do it.
Do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
What about your most challenging race and your most memorable race and your favorite race?
That's a lot.
It's a lot of questions.
One thing at a time.
I mean,
I don't know. Throw us some races that you like. And
well, you said
one thing.
Muscle
What's
Man
your
was a rough bike. Is that the
say,
toughest thing you've ever had thrown at you in a race?
So far, actually, no. The most challenging thing mentally was Harryman this year, because I came in with a full head of steam of confidence, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with that race, but you start in Lake Welch, and they reversed the bike course this year, so that instead of coming down to Seven Lakes, you go down the back to the hairpin,
and come up to Urati Brook,
Okay. And
that's a fun one.
It's super fun.
So then so you come up to Urati Brook, down Seven Lakes, up Lake Welch,
and then back.
That's the old Bear Mountain race course.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's really challenging.
We actually, I worked with the race director, and I was lobbying for a while. I was like, you've got to reverse it, because number one, racing down Tiarati Brook is super dangerous.
Yeah.
And it's early season, the local race. So a lot of people that are doing it are, a lot of first timers. And the road conditions are, it's right after the winter. So it gets dangerous. And I said, flip it. And then we also don't have to go down Lake Welch to Seven Lakes. And that's a terrible. I'd rather go slow than go fast.
Yeah.
So we flipped it. And I had done a couple recon rides, and I knew that right before the hairpin, there's a bridge and there's a lip. And if you stay to the right, it's flush. And if you go to the middle, there's a huge gap.
We've hit that before.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
I was flying, and I just come out of the water. I had a great swim, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a good one. Came down, and somebody was riding kind of slow on the right side. I'm like, I got room. And then right before we got to it, I think they panicked or something, but they kind of shot over, nudged me over. I hit it. Boom. Flat. And I was like, oh no. And then it was just this calamity of errors of anything that could have went wrong, trying to fix it. The nozzle I brought for my CO2 didn't fit into the disc slot thing. And then the guy, there was actually bike repair guy right there, and he showed up. He's like, hey, I've got another wheel. I'm like, great. And he's looking. He's like, I don't have the right this. I don't have the right, through axle. And I was like, okay. So I'm fighting, switching. It ended up being, I think it was 14 minutes.
Oh my God.
And I'm just standing there hitting gels. Oh my God. And for me, it was one of those moments where I was like, all right, what do we do with this day? Because clearly it's not going to be let's go and try and win this race. It's going to be, what can we get out of this race? So I've pivoted to good training day. Let's try and push, the best power we can on the bike. Let's try and override the bike and see how hard we can push it before we blow up on the run. Success. It did it. And ended up actually having a pretty good bike minus that. And completely blew up on the run, and cramping, gut issues. I'll spare the gory details, but
thank you.
It was not pretty. And was able to fight back up to 10th.
Oh wow,
that doesn't sound so terrible.
14 minutes.
How far behind the winner were you?
14 minutes.
14 minutes and 30 seconds.
What? Really?
No.
Oh my God.
It was this guy, Tom Garvey. I only know him because
he remembers the name.
He reached out to me because we were promoting the race on Agegrouper. He reached out to me and was like, hey, I just got my pro card and I need a good, tune-up race. And, can you get me in? The registration's closed. And I just forwarded the email to the race director. I was like, here. He's like, sure, I don't care. Go nuts. So he came up to me before the race. He's like, hey, thank you. He saw the shirt.
Nice.
And then afterwards, I came up to him and I was like, I wanted to race you head to head so bad. And it just didn't happen. Wasn't on the cards.
Wow.
So.
Sounds like you have a score to settle.
Did you go tubeless after that?
I did. Yeah.
Just asking.
I switched immediately. Knock on wood, I have not had a issue since. So.
All right.
So that was one of your most challenging. What's your most memorable race on I guess more of a good slant?
Good note,
yeah.
Oh, Placid.
Yeah.
Doing Placid. It was first full Ironman.
That was last year, you said?
That was last year.
Was that the one where it was 90 something degrees?
Yeah,
and
yeah. It was most memorable because it was the first exposure to hard I ever saw. You came off that bike and we went into the tent and I was putting on my shoes and I look around and I see a guy that had been sitting there for a while and he just looked at me and goes, I'm done. And he took off his chip and handed it in. I'm like, dude,
no.
what? We're here.
Yeah.
Try.
Take a step.
And then we went out and it was the first time I had to contemplate that, wow, I have to run a whole marathon right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm shot. And it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was just
what gets you
your
through.
definition of awesome and my definition of
Yeah, maybe.
awesome.
But what gets you through that? Because it's such an enormous task. Like you just biked 112 miles, and people are quitting around you, and it's 90 something degrees. What gets you through that
What's your
huge?
mental
What was your
trek?
mind? Yeah.
I don't necessarily I did a lot of digging into like mental strength and mental strength tips and tricks for athletes. And there's a lot that I know a number of people use, like mantras. And, for me, it was more just the deconstruction of the task. So it's not going in like, oh my God, I have a marathon. It's just, all right, I need to get out of transition. All right, I know I need to get past that first 15 minutes where you just feel like garbage. So it's just like, get to mile 2, 3. Then you can take your gel. Okay, all right, now I need to get through the next 5K, and then breaking it up into pieces with goals and strategies for each one.
Mm.
And then you never really like looking up and going like, oh my God, how am I going to do this gigantic thing?
So just manageable chunks.
Yeah, and like even in the swim, like for example, the placid swim's even easier because it's broken into loops for you. But Arizona wasn't. It was one continuous swim straight into the sun. And instead I set the watch to beep every I think they come standard to beep every 500 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually use that as pace markers. So it's like, all right, we're going to come out, get to the first turn buoy. We're going to be strong. As soon as we get to the first buoy, we're going to, dial it back, catch our breath, assess, and find our groove. Once you hear the beep, you're going to pick it up one notch. Then you hear the beep again, see how you feel. You pick up another one. And you're just working towards your intervals, even though it's a long swim. Would love to have said that I worked on the bike, but that's a long, continuous 3-loop bike course in Arizona. But yeah, just breaking it into chunks.
So when you're on the run, at what point did you finally feel like you kind of could let your guard down? You're like, okay.
Yeah, was there a second wind that came along, or a third wind, or a fourth? Like
there was. So if you've done Lake Placid before, have you?
No, not yet.
So
I don't remember you said that.
not yet.
Not yet.
It's a pretty. I mean, it's an incredible course because you can't hide. Like the swim is probably one of the easiest on the Ironman circuit because it's straight with a lane line under the water, or not lane lines, with a buoy line under the water, so you don't really have to sight. You can just swim straight and look down. And 2 loops, actually, you get this drafting like water whirlpool effect. You get all these people are just swimming in a circle.
Throw my laundry in.
So the swim is easy, but you can't hide on the bike. There's elevation, and there's a bit of bike handling, not a ton, but a little bit. The run is basically a massive downhill out with a bit of undulating elevation through, and then that same massive uphill back, and you do it twice. And that uphill back, it's not that steep on a normal day, but in the middle or at the end of an Ironman, it is brutal. Like you just, you have to walk it. So I came through, slowed to a bit of like a hustled walk up it the first time.
The shuffle.
Came back down. And then when I came to it the second time, I was actually feeling pretty good. And I was just like, I'm almost done. I think it's like comes at mile like 21. And I came through. And then when you get to the end of the run, you actually come up to the Olympic Oval where the finish line is on your left. And you have to do this quick out and back on the right. And you go out for half a mile and come back for a mile.
That's got to be the toughest mile of the race.
I came down, turned, and I don't know what, it just broke. Because I thought I was like, I'm in, I'm done,
Yeah.
there we go.
Oh,
and
what
all
a
of a sudden,
mind
energy
flash.
just went,
Yeah.
and I remember I was turning the corner, and there's just this crowd of people, and I don't even at the time I didn't know him. But one of the coaches at Varlo, he was standing. Varlo had this big pop-up tent. They were staying at the hotel, which was right on the corner. And I came around the corner and I saw him and he saw me and we just locked. Had never met, don't know each other. We just locked eyes and he just gave me this look of like, "You're almost done." And I was just like, "I got it."
That just snapped you right out of it.
And I just went and I just kept going. And he didn't even like, it was probably some insignificant moment to him. And I was like, that for some reason got me back up and going and through. But to your point, I let my guard down. I was like, "Oh, there it is." And it's like, nope, not even done yet.
So then when you finally came around, describe that feeling.
Oh my God. It was a combination of just every emotion a human can have all at once. You know, you come around like the ice rink. Basically you enter in and it's just a big loop into the finish line and it's just lined with people. And I had like my whole family, my boys, my parents, my sister,
the sister that told you to do the Ironman.
My sister that told me, she's like, "I'm not gonna miss it. I'm gonna watch you." And they were all like literally right next to the finish line, and I just came through, crossed the line, and just shattered everything. I was like, the body stopped working. I was just like crying for no reason. And it was just like a complete feeling of emptiness and fullness at the same time. It's hard to describe.
Oh, wow. Did you do the flying eagle?
Oh, I could not. I had nothing. So,
how long did it take to get back to normal after that?
Yeah.
Placid, it took a while because I found out later that I was massively dehydrated and did not properly supplement with water because, like you mentioned, the heat kind of snuck up on everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I went in with my plan of like, okay, I know my sweat rate, you know, I know how much sodium I need. And, I should have had probably another half a bottle an hour on the bike. So because I went to completely empty, I was hobbling probably for a week. Whereas with Arizona, you know, I was back out on the bike, I think like 3 or 4 days later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
and Placid, it was humid that day too, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah. It was that weird like dance of like, is it going to rain? Is it not going to rain? So we get like super humid, like it was going to rain, but then it wouldn't. So then you're just like hot and humid at the same time.
So that year you were like, I'm going to do an Ironman. I might as well do 2 this year. Did you do Placid and Arizona the same year?
Because I did just the 70.3 distance 21. And I really enjoy a double peak season. So I like building to something in early summer and then building to something at the end of the year. Plus there's something kind of fun about being the only idiot out there fully dressed doing big rides in like October. But yeah, so, and then this year it was intended to only be shorter distance. So we did Olympic and then 70.3. But then they canceled 3 full Ironmans next year. So they took them off the schedule. So when you look, if your goal was to try to qualify for Kona, let's say, there's only 2 races in North America in 2023 that are within the cutoff to qualify. Yeah. And it's, you know, Placid and Texas. So I was like, I kind of want, I think I could do it. I want to take a shot at it, but I want 2 shots just in case the first one doesn't work out. So I was like, maybe I'll just jump back into Arizona this year. So we kind of talked through it, and it was either that or Texas. And I can do big rides in October. That's manageable.
Yeah.
But big rides in February.
That's tough.
Yeah.
That's cold.
Especially here. Yeah.
So we jumped back into Arizona for this year.
Nice.
Which one of those 2 races is the latest one that you could qualify? Texas or Placid?
Placid.
So I'm almost in the school of thought, just only sign up for Placid and there's no backup. You just have to do it. You have to qualify.
Yeah.
No,
and
no safety net.
No safety net and all the things that are outside of your control.
No,
Another flat.
Just all out. You just gotta put all your eggs in one basket.
Oh, I'm all in on. So I actually got, shame on me not doing my research. I signed up for Arizona, and then like a week later, a friend of mine was telling me like, that there's fewer slots available for those races, right? And I said, what do you mean? Because normally I think there's 45 or 50 slots for male and female, like for each. And because they did because they split it, you had a lot of people that had qualified for Kona in 2022 and then found out afterwards they switched it to Nice. So they gave them the option to defer, and like half of them deferred. So by nature, there's only a small number of slots actually left.
Oh no.
And so when you look now, I was like, oh crap, there's 20 slots available for men in Arizona.
Is that like one per age group, pretty much?
I think it's like one or two. 35 to 39, I think it ends up.
Is that where you are?
Yeah.
Okay. So and there might be some that don't have it, so you might get 3 in that age group.
Maybe.
And it's very unlikely to roll down.
It's not going to roll down.
I was just like, oh man,
stakes are high.
So I immediately reached out to Ironman. I was like, hey, I think I want to defer to Texas Nation. And they're like, sorry, you can't do that. So we're going.
All right.
So we just got to do really well.
Yeah. James likes that. No backup. You just kind of got to go all in.
Yeah. I see that.
I'm a lot of talk. I'm all talk.
Yeah.
Can you maybe also then, we talked about your training, maybe talk about your nutrition during the race. You talked about some gut issues. You went kind of some basic, but maybe just give us some highlights about what that looks like during your races.
Because we've been with Power Bar this year also. And
nice.
Like we've kind of started using their stuff last year, brought them on board as our nutrition sponsor this year. And their stuff's great. Like,
that dual carb C2 max blend.
He loves it.
Yeah, the old glucose to fructose ratio. So nutrition for me starts about 3 days out. So I've kind of over a lot of trial and error figured out a protocol that works. So for me, the issue was the term, I guess, would be called delayed gastric emptying, which is basically just food sitting in my stomach and not moving through fast enough, and it just causes a lot of like bloating and gas pain. I would get
regularly, or that's just during the race? I'm sorry.
This is during the race.
So
it would always happen at the same time. It would be like almost to the minute, 15 to 20 minutes into the run.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, I'd start to feel this pinch right around my belly button, and it would just grow, and it's just gas pain that's kind of developing up. And the suspicion is that any complex carbs, fats, or proteins, if they're still in the system, my body just doesn't process them well when it's under stress. So we started paring things back. So we took out peanut butter, which I eat a lot of fatty foods, 24 to 36 hours before the race. We took out dairy and any inflammatories. And really we went down to like a lot of what the pro cyclists eat, which is just, white rice and eggs for most meals, starting around 2 days out. And we start cutting fiber, I think 3 days. So I'll start cutting fiber out tomorrow. So veggies start to come off the plate, no more oatmeal, and really just simple carbs. I eat basically like a teenager again. A lot of Pop-Tarts. And then, once we get to race morning, the race morning meal is something I've been really tweaking, but it ends up being super basic, just like white bread, some honey, and some banana, and that's it.
What time is that?
Usually like 3 hours before race start. And that holds me over, and then I'll hit a Power Bar Mojito hydrogel with 50 milligrams of caffeine.
Hits the spot
right before the swim start. And then usually it's like a 30-minute delay. So the caffeine will hit like, depending on the race, like either right in the middle or right at the end of the swim. Right, I'm about to get onto the bike, and then once on the bike, it's 88 grams of carbs per hour. So it's not
It's
on
a
that.
very
That's
specific
I was
number.
going to say,
Yeah.
that's not a specific
It
number.
is.
88 and a half.
It's 8. No, it's 9 gels over the course of a half Ironman bike. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like with the 2 hours, plus whatever it is, and being like 88 grams. So we shoot for around 90.
Mhm.
I've tried 100. I've tried 120. I tried 130.
Oh, Rich has a
I
good story
tried
about
that.
what were you,
Rich
150
did
to
too.
180?
I tried. I like the first race out. I'm like, I'm just going to try nutrition because the whole thing this year was about like you can take on more carbs.
Yeah.
Right. So it was like first race, exactly not expecting anything. I think I did like 180, and then
Oh my God.
Marilyn's passing me on the bike. She's like, "How you doing?" I'm like, "Not
Not-
good."
Yeah, I get the sugar fatigue, and then it just ends up a ball of sugar
Right.
in your gut.
It was like,
this is
ah.
not going anywhere.
Nope.
Yeah, I found I went up to 120 and then just started coming down by like 10 gram increments, and then something like that 90 range for me. It was just I also have to front load it, so I have to finish all my nutrition, so it ends up being more than 90 grams an hour. Over the first 2 hours, but I just
Okay.
drink clear water for the last 30 minutes
Mhm.
because I'm just trying to flush.
That
and
helps
get
clear it
everything
out
good
before the
through
run.
For the run.
Mm.
Yeah.
And then run.
And then the run, what is the math? It's 5 gels, so 130 grams or 128 grams
Mhm.
Are you
of carbs.
typically using the race nutrition, or are you taking your own?
I always take my own.
Okay.
I can't do Morton gels.
Is it the texture?
I've tried it.
Is it the commercials?
Well, it's
Oh my gosh, those ads.
It's the texture of it, but have you tried the caffeinated one?
Oh, okay. So you're a marketing guy. Let's talk about this. Have you seen the Christian Blumenfeld
It's so
video,
bad.
like Morton thing? He's got
Which
Got it
one?
he's got a
splattered on
Morton
his
gel
eye.
like hanging
Oh,
out of
yes.
his
Yeah,
mouth,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like, dude, the consistency already reminds me of something. That is not
Yeah.
helping the situation.
No, dude, it's rough.
Yeah.
There was another one. Sam Laidlow did one where it was like he was trying to do like
Oh, was he
like a
cooking
spoof-
with it?
Yeah, he was like
Oh,
making
yes.
different meals
Yeah.
like with
It's
his
so
Morton
gross.
gel, and and that was I was already started working with Power Bar, and I pitched this idea. I was like, guys, let's troll that ad. And I was like, yeah, this is what you have to do when you don't have any flavors.
Oh,
But,
oh.
I was vetoed.
Shots
Yeah.
fired. I think that would have
It's
done
like,
well.
They're like, what's the upside? I'm like, a lot of exposure, and this would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, well, so, but yeah, I can't do those. They're caffeinated gels because it's, at least to me, it just tastes like battery acid.
Yeah, that bitter flavor of the
can't get it
caffeine
down.
with no flavor added to the gels. Like
Yeah.
it's just
It's rough.
Oh,
stop. You guys
It's
are
rough.
terrible.
Yeah, we are.
Um,
We're terrible.
I did take Gatorade Endurance Placid in a panic moment because I was like, I'm cramping on this bike. Maybe I need more electrolytes. And I just grabbed one. I took a swig, and it was just salt. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh boy. Yeah, we're not going to do that. No,
Mm.
So you're not like a cola
I haven't tried it.
aficionado.
No, I haven't tried it. I haven't
That
into
last
it.
5K.
I know, like
It's nice.
No, I am. What I will do is, and we're actually doing a little bit of investigation here. Is if I get to the end and I'm just falling apart, I'll start doing mouth rinse with caffeinated gels. So basically, instead of taking and swallowing it, you just squirt a caffeinated gel in your mouth, and swish it around, and then spit it out. And you actually have carb receptors and caffeine receptors in your
Mhm.
mouth and in your gums. And part of it is psychological, like it
Mhm.
tricks the brain into thinking you're getting carbs, boost energy, and the part of it is you actually are able to absorb some of the carbohydrate and the caffeine, and it's a little trick you can use like towards the end. Like I used that in Milwaukee at Age Group Nationals, just to get a little boost right at the end. Swish it around, spit it out. It's funny, everyone thinks you're puking. I'm like,
And that's so it doesn't upset your stomach. You don't.
so it doesn't upset your
Gosh.
stomach, but it also it's instant.
It's like,
So it's like if you just swallow and get it
More
down, you
than
have to
you
absorb it. Whereas this one is just like straight into, straight into affecting your nervous system.
So the hydrogel is like perfect
Interesting.
for that then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
watery.
I'm kind of personally curious when you're on the run, and I did some research. I know your times. When you're running, are you slowing down for aid stations? Like, how are you, or are you just doing your
Plowing
own thing?
through.
You're plowing through as fast. Okay.
I've really gotten really good at the lobster claw grab of the
Yeah.
cups. So you
Okay.
don't grab from the side, you grab from the top.
Yep.
And then you pinch and throw.
And you don't
And you just
cut your pace back because it's a pretty intense pace.
You have to a little bit, but usually not really. And depends on the course. If it's in the first loop where it's not as busy, I'll just start at the front and I'll just grab as many as I can and like grab one of everything. And then if I don't want it, I just throw it away.
Mhm.
But this way I can, if I miss one, I don't
Mhm.
have to worry. When you get to like the second loop or a busier course, that gets tricky because you got
Mhm.
people that are just like stopping.
That might be me.
And then I loop.
I might have gotten in your
It's
way
all of
once or
us.
twice.
And then
Sorry about blocking you on Harriman on the bike.
ice is big.
Yes.
What's your strategy for that?
I have multiple strategies for ice.
Let's hear them.
So ice down the jersey immediately, splash with water. Wet ice is good ice. You want it in the groin.
See?
If you can get it down onto your
Yeah.
legs.
I love
like,
it.
Then the second one is you eat it.
Yeah.
So crunch it up, and then you can actually do some like core temp cooling a bit, which is less immediate and less relief, but it does work. And then the third is you hold them in your hands.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you hold the ice cubes in the palms.
No stockings.
It seems like Matt maybe listened to our cooling
Yeah, our
episode.
cooling.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
we
we
hit on
named all
all
those things.
all these points.
Oh yeah, we did a big one, a deep dive into this. This and cramping, and we went down a path with cramping, thinking that we had the answers, and then we talked to a couple more experts and realized that we were completely wrong about cramping.
Well, cramping is one of the things that no one actually
It's-
really
It
knows.
seems like
Yes.
no one knows
So-
the answer to cramping.
Yeah.
Like everybody cramps for different
And
reasons.
apparently, like the whole electrolyte thing is not even 100% proven.
No.
It was
It's not.
Gatorade actually like funded that study,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
kind of become the
Right.
the norm. But no one really knows.
And the other thing is like, I mean, let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But
My
Yeah,
worst
we've been
enemy.
Back to
there
the
so
ice
many
strategy.
times.
We've been
Have you
there.
heard his icing?
It's not my ice strategy. It's every pro cyclist on the world tour uses it. Like we did a race a couple weeks ago, and it was going to be hot. So I had my wife buy me knee-high stockings, and I loaded them with ice, and I grabbed them at T2 and threw them down the back of
Yeah,
my
like
jersey.
an
And I had
ice,
like a ice log.
sausage.
It was great. It's,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, lasted for the first half of the run.
I just read about someone today that carries like a tube sock with no ice in it, and then when she gets to the rest area, fills
Fills it
it
with
and
ice.
puts it around her neck,
Oh,
and then
Yeah.
I've seen that.
refills it at every.
I've seen
Ice
people
is key.
refill stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like the
Bags.
stocking will transfer the cooling
you
faster.
can't
though.
it
refill
doesn't
it.
matter.
Oh, you can't?
refill-
No, because I have it
no.
tied with a knot, so
Oh.
it can go down my jersey.
I'm thinking leave it open, and every aid station fill it up.
Well,
It's hard
and
to fill
There was
up.
no ice at this race.
Yeah, no, but for the Ironman ones, it might.
I don't think I need the stocking for that. Whatever.
Matt,
It's
have
a
you
good
ever
idea.
have you ever tried? I discovered
Oh,
these
this is
recently.
scary. I'm worried about this.
Oh my God! We're
Yeah,
gonna go
I don't want to be
down-
like don't try this for your upcoming races, but maybe something in the future.
I don't think you have to worry about
I
that.
don't think he's gonna try.
Have you ever seen the new? Maybe they're new to me. The chewable Alka-Seltzers.
Chewable Alka-Seltzer.
They're
What
like
do you
the
do with
texture
that?
of Mentos.
Aren't all Alka-Seltzers technically chewable?
Anything's
well, not
chewable.
not the
ones that are
effervescent
like,
one.
they're
hard
like,
enough.
they're like
But you don't have to
candy.
mix in
Try
water.
hard
It's
enough,
like
you can
a
chew regular
it's a
Alka-Seltzer.
it's
Like
like
a
a
candy.
the
Try
same
it at your race.
consistency as like a Mentos.
Yeah. I've seen
Okay.
those.
I'm just wondering. I wonder if like that indigestion kind of gas and bloating. I wonder if he popped a couple chewable
Oh, yeah.
Alka-Seltzers.
Yeah, but I don't
That's
think it's the same mechanism for the reason.
it's
I think
different,
it's. I
yeah.
think you're right.
And there's
I
some
think it's
sugar in
just
there
a
too.
Huge amount of stuff sitting in your stomach and
Yeah.
not emptying. I
Able
don't
to
think
like
it's a
break it up a little bit.
I don't know.
Get it moving.
The hardest thing with it has been I've yet to be able to recreate it in training.
So you
even
feel- yeah.
with like massively, like I've tried, like had a hard session load up, like super hard bike into a hard run, and I did everything exactly the same. And I actually purposely like loaded up with like big peanut butter sandwich before, during the ride, have not been able to recreate. It
It's
only
gotta be
happens
so
on race
frustrating.
day.
It's like
And I'm
that
like, this
extra
is so annoying.
mental effort of the race,
Or
possibly.
there's some
Yeah.
psychological to
Yeah,
it.
probably. So what's the best piece of advice you've ever received from another triathlete?
I love that.
Solid question.
Deep. Wow.
Well, I would say the best piece of advice, because I think it saved me, was John Potter, who's the local triathlete. A lot of people know him.
Yep.
I went out for a ride with him very early on when I first started in the sport. And remember, we were coming down Harriman.
He likes to ride Harriman.
Loves it. Oh, he shows up late. And we were coming down from 106 back towards the circle, and all of a sudden we were going pretty fast, and my front wheel started wobbling, and he was just like, "That's called wheel wobble." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Put your knees against your top tube," and I was like, "Oh," and I just did it, and all of a sudden there's everything settled down. I was like, "Oh." He goes, "The next time that happens in a race, if it happens in Placid on the keen descent, do that, and that'll stop you from falling off your bike."
Oh, wow.
And I was like, "Huh." So I remember in Placid, not during the race, but I was up there for a training camp. I was coming down, and it started, and I immediately was just like, put my knees against it, and just took the vibration out and stopped it from wobbling.
Cool.
And I say that's the best because I think that probably would have been one of the gnarliest crashes ever, because you're like going like 40 miles an hour down that descent. It's so fast.
Because I feel sometimes.
Someone once, my brother told me that once, so that I always do that. Yeah.
Because I feel like it's
so
like
I'm going
when
downhill, I was like squeezing. And that
do it.
time at Independence when the wind came, that's what I did, and I think that's why I didn't fall.
Now, does that wobble? Because I feel like if I'm getting like tensed up because I'm a little nervous going fast, I don't know if that's what starts initiating. I don't know.
It's just called speed wobble. Like it could have a bunch of different sort of
I don't know what the
causes,
is,
but then once the harmonics start going through the bike, like it's hard to stop.
Yeah, if it's like a natural frequency, it's just gonna
shorten that by pinching the top tube. It helps.
Interesting. All right, good to know.
Maybe like a lighter question. I'll go like, what are your like what equipment are you using for like your run shoes, your bike, your wetsuit, like swim skin? Like what do you
don't have a swim skin. Haven't had a non-wetsuit swim yet.
So what are you doing this weekend? Is it wetsuit or do we know what the water temps are?
I think it's borderline.
Borderline? So if it's borderline, are you just going to go
in the tri-suit? Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've done swims in the tri-suit at Mary Ellen's place a bunch of times, so not concerned. But yeah, haven't had one, so I don't own a swim skin. I've been using a Roka Maverick X for my wetsuit.
Sleeved or sleeveless?
Sleeved. And that's been good. It promises that it's supposed to be the fastest wetsuit.
It's not fast for me.
I didn't see much of a change.
I know.
I had my old ratty used
Send him a letter.
Xterra, what is it? Vortex.
Yeah.
That has literally I get made fun of. There's so many holes in it, and it's not any faster than that.
Yeah.
So, but it doesn't have holes, so I guess that works.
Looks better in the finisher pics.
Yeah, exactly. I've been riding the Canyon for since the beginning, really.
Do you switch up to go to like a road bike, or do you just ride the tri bike all the time?
No, I have a road bike also. Depending on where we are in the season. So in the beginning of the season, I'll do more of the road bike, and then as we get closer to the race, I'll focus more on the tri bike. And then I've been running the Sauconys, the Endorphin line, for a while now. So I use the Shift, which is their like trainer shoe. It's a little bit more cushioned for training, and then their Pros, which is their carbon shoe for speed work and the race day. So they've been working well. It's hard to try super shoes because you can't just go and try them on. You have to buy them. Have $400.
Yeah.
Well, one of those guys just need to send someone. They just need to send you a pair to review or write about, blog about. Yeah. So
I've tried.
Yeah.
Do you do all your runs on road? Do you do any trail runs?
Predominantly road. I am a big out the door trainer. Like I don't like to travel to a training destination. So like if I go ride Harriman, I ride to Harriman from the house. And so I I need a ride that's at least 3 hours. So it takes, an hour to get there, an hour up there, an hour home. We don't have much trail running nearby in Glen Rock. Like you can go up into like Ramapo State Park, but it's so much more convenient to just go out the door. So most of it's on the road.
And that's like intense trail running. That's like
that's
jockey,
not gonna help you.
1,000 feet vertical all at once.
Come run the power lines with us. I mean, maybe not.
I've done
some other people.
We'll see you and
just like come meet us at the beginning.
We'll see you there, and
Is
then
that the power lines or the Saddle River running path?
The power lines.
Okay, I've done the power lines, the grass running.
Yeah.
A couple times. I don't love it.
Okay. What about like?
Rich is offended. Rich is offended.
You're
Not
a big
at all.
fan.
No, I'm just curious. Like, what's the like? Is it just you're slower? You're just technique is like it's not strengthening you enough. Like, what's going? I'm just curious about your thought process.
I don't feel like I get the same. Well, I don't feel like you don't get the same return off the ground.
Okay.
And you don't have that same bounce, so it feels like running flat. You just no springiness and
okay.
I've done them, and then you just kind of feel unfulfilled after the run. I'm like, I wish I kind of just went on the road.
We just discovered that Rich is soft sand is his element.
Oh yeah.
We just did Pine Barrens, and they described it was like they said hard pack trail, gravel, some soft sand or whatever. But it was a lot of soft sand, and Rich had like one of the best runs or best feeling runs that he's had. So
just felt suited for it. I don't know why.
It's because you run the power lines all the time.
I run the power lines. Yeah,
that's like Atlantic City's race up until this year. They had the finish line on the beach.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Horrible. Worst idea
brutal.
ever.
I remember coming through and just like running in slow motion.
Quicksand.
What's happening?
Like pose for the picture, but I am in slow motion.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So Matt, we've taken a ton of your time up today, and we really appreciate it. So let's kind of bring this to a close. But you've got Jones Beach coming up this weekend. You've got Arizona coming up. What would for you a successful season look like? What would leave you content on, November 17th? Or I'm making a day up, but that sounds right.
Close enough.
It's a good question. I mean, I've already had this season compared to last year is already night and day. Like we've already hit a lot of big milestones that I did not think we'd get to until probably next year.
Mm-hmm.
So like I already feel like the season's been a success with these two races in particular. Like I said, with Long Island, it's not so much like a time goal or a place goal. It's just like want to have a complete 3-discipline race and feel good about it at the end. Arizona, I mean, we're swinging for the fences.
Yeah.
So
it's a Kona spot or
I mean, it's not all or nothing.
Right.
This goal. I mean, I did Arizona last year and it was just under 10 hours.
Okay.
And
do you have an idea of what you need to go this year to kind of be in the ballpark of a Kona spot?
If it's comparable to last year, then it's like 9 flat.
Yeah. Yeah, you're in a pretty tough age group.
So
it's
a little bit.
It's not and we had conversations between like training buddies, coach, and I'm like, this is just completely unrealistic. But why don't we
never know
shoot for
who
it?
shows up.
Is there stuff you're seeing in training that would point to that? I mean,
it all comes down to the bike.
Yeah.
I think that the swim, I think the swim is competitive enough. The run, I had gut issues last year. If we can avoid the gut issues, there's a shot. It just comes down to like I've only been cycling for 2.5 years, 3 years, and the folks that are at the front of this race, they have far more years of endurance sport in them. So it really comes down to can I get the split needed to get down there. So I mean, when we first put this on the calendar before learning about like the lower Kona slots, we were eyeing like let's make a 10% improvement, 5% improvement. Maybe get down to the mid 9s which is 15 minutes, which is, that's still big, but that's attainable. Like this is going almost an hour faster.
Mm-hmm.
So,
if you get perfect racing conditions, everything lines up, you never know.
And you never know who shows up.
Everybody else gets perfect racing
That's true. That's true.
It's more just like, can I execute perfectly on the day? The bike power is, I'm probably 10 watts below comfortably where I'd need to be at this stage to do what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So can I build that up in the next 8 weeks?
So let me ask you, if you have a kind of a number in mind, right? Power wise, whatever. If you get to day before the race or into taper or whatever, and you're like, I kind of need to push this number if I want to do it, but I don't know if I can do it. What do? Do you push the number, or do you and risk blowing up and walking the last half of the run, or do you say, let's be conservative, let's try and chase people down on the run?
Well, interestingly, with this race, it's and with most of the Ironman races, because it's not mass start, it's really a chasing against time as opposed to people, because you can't tell who's where. Like I chase people because it uses it as a motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Taking souls.
But but with this one, it really is it's a true time trial.
Yeah.
So it's it'll probably be more of we'll come to a number that we know we can hold.
Yeah.
And we're gonna push that number, and then during the race, we'll feel it out. Like if it's comfortable to go a bit higher, we'll go for it.
Yeah.
If it's not, then we'll just try to hold true to where we are. And then there's a bit of race dynamics. That one in particular is weird because of the fact that it's 3 loops. It gets super
crowded, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So you're not just it's not like just find a fast group and stick with them. It's find a fast group and navigate tons of traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you constantly have to pass
that third loop.
That third loop's going to be mayhem.
And there's unfortunately, a lot of crashes because it's one lane on either side, and people like to veer. So you kind of keep your wits about you.
Which probably turns it more into, like you're saying, just a straight up time trial. Like there's not going to be pack dynamics necessarily later on in the race.
Correct,
because there's no way you're sticking with a group of guys who are going.
You can't. That's maybe yes and no. I think it's more of it makes it harder to stay with the group because the group gets so mixed up with everybody else. But yeah, you have to, and also with this, let's be realistic. Drafting penalties go out the window on this course. It's just there's so many people that it's okay, you were drafting. I was passing 15 people because they were on their first loop. So you do have to get with a group, especially in the first 2 loops. But yeah, it's a free for all in that third, and it's also you're just so spent. I'm so tired of riding on this road.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
So, what would you say? What's the biggest lesson you learned, or biggest piece of advice you can give to the athlete that's done a handful of 70.3s and is planning on doing a full Ironman, hopefully next early fall next year?
Yeah, so you're talking to us now,
really
just so you know.
Either what have you learned? What's the biggest takeaway? What would you warn someone or advise them?
Right, stepping up from the 70.3 to the
full Ironman distance.
I'll answer and not use a single triathlon cliche, like nutrition is the 4th discipline. No, I think that it is the only thing that is holding you back from doing a full Ironman is you talking about it like it's a full Ironman and not just another race. It's purely a mental block, because at the end of the day, it's the exact same thing that you've been doing. It's just more of it, right? If you put in the training hours,
a little bit more,
and it's not double. Like,
It's not double.
It's
Well,
not
it's not
double.
double.
So I want to ask you, go ahead, keep it with your
Yeah.
statement. I got to
it's just
file
like-
away a question.
But it's actually, it's not as hard as a 70.3 because you're going
It's
slower.
Yeah.
But it is hard because you're going slower for longer.
Yes.
But also, and people will be pretty upset for saying this, but doing an Ironman is not a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to commit to doing the training that you need to do. But the actual race itself, if you can commit to the training and just put in the time, it's not as monumental of a task as I think a lot of people make it in their heads.
That's really great insight.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
Thank you.
fantastic. What's your filed away question?
He actually answered it because I was going to. So, like, I have friends who, like, I have 2 kids. You have 3 kids, right? I have friends who ask me, like, how much harder is it to go from 1 kid to 2 kids? And I said, well, it's more than twice as hard.
Yes.
3 kids.
3 kids.
3
It's
kids
like,
is crazy. You're splitting from man to man to zone defense.
Yeah, but
That's
the
a
third is
complex.
just like he
Survive.
survives. Go get him.
So I was going to say, like, is an Ironman twice as hard as a 70 point? But you answered it already. It's
Yeah.
not. It's not.
It's not like take whatever you did in training and double it,
Right.
because you're still like you're building an aerobic system to go and perform a task for an extended period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of work to do that is not directly correlated to the distance you're going.
Right.
It's just like you don't see marathon runners having to run marathons to do a marathon.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the training time from 2021 to 2022. So in 21, I didn't do a single full. I just did Eagle Man and then was supposed to do St. George, but ended up not. The amount of hours spent only increased by maybe like 2 or 3
Mm-hmm.
to get into
Per week.
2022 per week.
Yep.
You definitely,
That's what I told you.
there's
I never
gonna
doubted you
be-
for a second.
You do have your big weeks. Like
Yeah.
at the end of
Yeah.
the day, like you have to do, the full time plus some on the bike at least.
That's what I told
twice.
you.
But I mean, you plan
It's
for
only a
those,
couple
right?
times.
Mm-hmm.
And you're building. So you've got like the month or the 6 weeks leading into a full Ironman. You've got basically like half of those weeks where you're gonna have 2 really big days each week, and you just plan accordingly, right? Like
Mhm.
you make adjustments. You have the biggest key to any successful triathlete is a very understanding partner.
Yes.
True.
And or really close grandparents.
Also true.
And we have one, unfortunately. We have 45 minutes, so I guess we have both. But yeah, if you can plan ahead and you can make the necessary arrangements, you can get that done. But as far as like assuming you can do the training, actually completing the task of doing the race, it is far more attainable than I think most people think.
That was very good
So-
insight for me.
Yeah.
So sign
that's
up.
Great. Yeah.
Awesome.
We're,
I got Capuzzo to sign up for Placid, so I think we can get a few more people.
we're just waiting for the registration to open.
Yeah, we're committed.
For Placid?
No.
We're gonna do.
that's-
I think it's Chattanooga.
Chattanooga.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, when is that's
End of
this weekend?
September. Yeah,
That's happening this weekend, right?
it is this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not doing that one. Just
Oh,
Yeah. Next 2024.
2024.
Missed
Yeah.
the sign up.
Yeah.
Oops.
Oh man, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
if
all
you want to
gonna
join
do
us, yeah,
Yep.
that's the plan.
it. Well, I already have Placid on the calendar, so maybe.
You
Just
could
for
do
fun.
a late season one.
Just for fun.
Yeah.
A little
Like
training
you said,
day.
It's really not that
Yeah.
big.
Yeah.
That one's really a big deal. It's
Yeah.
just like a turning around to Ironman within a month. That one, I don't know about that one.
I think James missed the question of can you do a marathon a month right after you do an Ironman?
Yeah,
I wanted
after
to-
Oh, half
7.3.
Ironman.
Half
Is it
After
half? Oh,
7.3.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
I thought he also
definitely.
wanted to do a marathon.
Oh, he said definitely. He said definitely. See,
Yeah.
Uh,
Too
What,
bad he doesn't
marathon?
coach you.
a marathon.
Philly?
After, yeah, I was thinking after Wilmington. I'm already up to volume and training. I'm like, might as
No,
well
you're
just
not.
No, not to run.
pretty much there.
Halfway there.
Yeah,
If you started now, you could do it.
and that's
You
what
can
I think.
build it.
I think the problem was the taper or something. I don't know, something like that. Like it would conflict
Why?
with.
What's your longest run right now?
I mean, it's usually time based, so 2 hours.
You're doing 2 hour runs now.
Yeah, we've been doing it for
a while.
Well,
a while.
and
Like,
how long would you aim to do the full or the affiliate?
That's just it.
I have a score to
He has
settle. I finished in, what was it? 4 hours and
Or-
30 seconds or something.
Garmin,
like I was trying to go like sub 4.
Here's the thing.
I missed about like 30
if we
seconds.
went by Garmin, he did break 4.
But
But the Philly Marathon, you didn't run the tangents. It was
I could have cut a corners a little better. Yeah, I forget the exact. Maybe it was 27. I don't remember.
Just
It was
over.
within a
It was
minute.
like
your
just
Garmin
over.
read over distance. I have the opposite issue. My Garmin always reads under distance.
Mm.
Yeah,
I never get credit for my half marathons or my full.
Oh, man.
That would drive me mad,
So it
then.
was like, you did
yeah, he ran like
26.4.
26.4 or 26.6
nice.
and missed it by like a minute.
Yeah, so but whatever.
If you're doing 2-hour runs now, like it would be truncated, but you could build this. And you're also doing 2-hour runs plus you're doing all the
Cross training,
aerobic
basically.
work.
I'm like
Yeah.
basically cross training for a marathon.
You would have to like.
I'm going to pause the recording now.
super
No.
short, and I think you should do it.
Yeah.
Oh,
There you go. Too
and
bad.
I signed up for Rocky Run, but that could just be another training day into.
Oh boy.
I don't even know what that is. Oh,
That's
the
right.
Rocky
I,
Philly,
I
yeah.
signed up for the
That.
Italian Stallion
Yeah,
Challenge,
Gotcha. All right.
but whatever. We'll
All right.
see.
Well, this podcast is supposed to be about Matt Schuster
Mhm.
and not James Coe.
no, no.
Matt,
I
thanks-
got a lot out of it. And
Yeah,
I
I did too, man.
Thank
That was
you.
great.
Matt,
I mean,
Yeah.
Thank you
I'm
very
a
Thank you
fan.
so much.
Thank you very much for coming on the show. Thank you for the shirts.
Yeah.
We really
Yeah.
appreciate it. And
Enjoy.
good luck this weekend at Jones Beach. We hope you have an awesome race. We hope that Arizona goes well for you. And
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll
We'll
be
make sure to-
We'll
I'll
be
keep an eye out.
following.
pulling
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
we'll make sure to post everything about Agegrouper up on the show notes for
Awesome.
the people who listen. But thanks very much for coming on. We really appreciate it. All right. Thanks everybody for listening. This has been another episode of the Quad Pod. Listen next week to see whatever we got.
Thanks everyone for listening to the Next Level Quad Pod. We really appreciate you spending time with us and listening to everything that we have to offer. If you like what you heard, please leave us a review and a rating. Those little things go a long way towards us being able to bring you more content like this. If you'd like to learn more about what we have to offer, please go to our website at goteamnltry.com. There, you can find out about all the different things we provide that can help you reach your athletic potential. Thank you again for finding time in your busy schedule to spend some time with the Quad Pod.